Hello, I'm Corrie.
And I'm Myckayla.
And we're psychotherapists from Ontario, Canada. Welcome to the Health Counseling Show. Today we'll be discussing issues including going no contact, how to decide to go no contact, how to cope with going no contact, and how to maintain relationships outside of the no contact relationship. Disclaimer, the content discussed on this show is for educational purposes and is not a substitute for care from a registered health professional. Please keep in mind that while we are psychotherapists, our conversations on the show are not meant to suggest best practices. The podcast is about discussing important topics that affect the lives of everyday people, not to provide advice. If you do need assistance, contact a mental health professional or other health professional.
Awesome. Okay, so first question is, I am thinking of cutting off family. How do I know if it's the right decision for me? I think that this is such a personal question because everybody's family dynamics are different. Every family is going to look so different. From my experience in working with clients and in my own personal life, there's a lot of steps that come before cutting off a family member. There's boundaries that need to be set, and if those boundaries aren't being respected and adhered to, you got to get stricter with those boundaries, right? If there's certain topics that you don't want to talk about or certain ways that you don't want people showing up for you, you have to be super direct about that and really ask for what you need, which can be so tricky because there's so many things that come into how you go about that. There's cultural factors, there's trauma history, there's relationship styles, there's a lot that dictates how you can actually have those conversations, including the emotional maturity of the person that you're talking with. If it's a sibling or a family member or like a parent or a grandparent, there's probably going to be your own history between the two of you that's going to impact how they're going to receive that information. It's a very tricky situation, so it's not like a one size fits all. I think long answer is set those boundaries, be very strict with those boundaries, and if they continue to be disrespected, then eventually you get to the point of having to do what's best for you and your own emotional and mental health. Corrie?
I think to add to the boundary conversation, it kind of depends what relationship are you actually looking for with that person. Because there are a lot of people in the world that if you are okay with staying in the shallow end with that person, you can have that shallow end relationship. But if you are looking for someone who is nurturing and protective and attuned and like secure attachment and all those other buzzwords that we really like on TikTok these days, you're not going to get that from those people. So whether or not you go no contact is completely up to you on, are you also okay with accepting the relationship that that person's available? So I know you had mentioned like emotional maturity. So if that person isn't if someone's like abusive and harmful and unsafe, okay, like that's kind of a different end of the spectrum. But say this person's just kind of a little emotionally clumsy, kind of clueless, doesn't really know how to be a good person, kind of steps on your toes. That person might be someone, if you stick to how's the weather, how are the kids, how's work, then they can be a pretty good person as long as you're not giving them something to step on. Like it's kind of like a little kid in like a fine china shop. They can walk through as long as they're not touching anything, but if you let them start touching stuff, something bad's going to happen. Something's going to break. So I think it's kind of asking yourself, am I okay accepting this person for what they're capable of? And for a lot of people, they have a really hard time with that. So in therapy, there's a term called healing fantasy. And we have this fantasy, if we keep going back to people and we set it just the right way and we set it up just the right way and we give them one more chance, that magically that person's going to become a deep end person. Mm-hmm. If I take that child through the fine china shop one more time and let them hold something, they're not going to drop it. Not this time. Accepting, can I accept a shallow end relationship? Or maybe no contact is what you're looking for. If you can't walk that kid through the fine china shop and keep their hands in their pockets, you are allowed to kind of say like, hey, this isn't the relationship I want with this person, and they're not capable of the one I want, so maybe I do decide to go no contact. But again, kind of like you said, there's no one size fits all. It's really, what do I need from this person? Is this person capable of doing that? And am I capable of setting the boundaries to maintain us staying in that place? Can I keep all of my fine china out of my living room when I have this person over?
Yeah. I think like the big piece of that too, when it comes to like the kid in the china shop, is having unfortunately, it comes to having lower expectations for those people that you are considering going no contact with. We can't expect everybody to be, as you're saying, those deep end people. It's important to have deep end people in your life that you can like dive into the waters with. They're there to support you and rescue you and throw you that life raft. But there are going to be those people that like, you just got to stay on the surface to protect your own well-being. And if you want to maintain the relationship, that's kind of the way it's got to go. Right?
Yeah, and I think an important decision of going no contact is also kind of like you said, yes, it's important to have those people. Are you okay also living with that position empty if you don't have that person? Mm-hmm. So if it's a friend you're deciding to go no contact with, a friend is someone who is, I don't want to say replaceable, but you can kind of fill that position. Yeah. You can find another best friend. You can find another work wife. You can find another tennis person you go play tennis with. You can find another romantic partner. But when we get into family titles, there are some people who would rather have the shallow end parent than leave that position empty. If you have like a in-law or a surrogate person in your life that is very nurturing and motherly and wonderful to be around and is going to help you with the kids, you might be okay going no contact with mom because someone's going to fill that position. Yeah. But if you don't have that village around you to support and fill that position, the parent you have and sticking to the shallow end might be the best choice. So it's kind of depending on, do you have someone to fill that position? And if you don't, are you okay with it being empty?
Yeah, definitely being mindful of like when it comes to going no contact, it can lead to feelings of isolation, right? If you're cutting off a family member, sibling, parent, grandparent, cousin, aunt, whoever it is, there's a void there, right? It's easier maybe to fill a cousin void than it is to fill a parent void. And I think that's a big piece to that conversation, right? Okay, question number 2 is, why is going no contact with family such a popular thing right now? This is purely opinion from my point of view. I think that it's become so popularized to refuse to solve issues with people that it's hard to find a middle ground with, and set really, really harsh boundaries without giving people grace or wiggle room. This does not go, and I want to be so clear about this, this does not go for people who have caused you any kind of physical harm, like intentional harm or trauma. That's a whole different situation. Like having those harsh boundaries are important to protect you. With certain family members, like maybe they don't have the same political views as you. Maybe they don't agree with the way you raise your kids. Maybe they don't like the kinds of food that you eat or the house that you live in or the job that you have. Like these things are all important to you as a person, but I think it's become so overpopularized to be like, oh, well, we disagree, so I don't want to have you in my life. I'm only surrounding myself with people who 100% align with all of my values, which is great to have those people. But diversity is important to like keep our minds open and keep those relationships afloat, right? I think, in my opinion, that's why going no contact has become so popular.
I think in addition to that is like availability of information. So for so long, people had the idea is blood is thicker than water. You forgive family. It's your mom. It's your sister. It's your sibling. It's your whatever. Or divorce is bad for kids. Kids come from a broken home. All of those messages of keeping the nuclear family whole were so overwhelming. And a lot of people didn't really have the option in like resource wise, right? Mm-hmm. So like depending on what your support system, financial situation, a lot of people had grandparents move in with them at a certain age, or like they went to live with parents when their kids were little. All of those cultural practices made it borderline impossible to go no contact. I think I can think of like one case in my like immediate-ish family that like has a no contact for a temporary amount of time. And it was like clutching your pearls. I'm so shocked. I can't believe you're doing this. Where now with social media and podcast and therapy and TikTok, all of these platforms are kind of out here challenging. You actually don't have to keep unhealthy people in your life. Yeah. So yes, there's absolutely the population where it's like, if you don't 100% agree with me, you're out. Yeah. And there's also this huge shift in family system values of like chosen family, protecting your peace, blood is not thicker than water. Like I tell all my clients, blood is not thicker than water in my office. Just because you share DNA with someone does not mean you have to keep them in your circle. If that person is not good for you, I am not going to make you feel bad for removing them from your circle. You are absolutely allowed to protect your peace. And I think people have heard that message so much more now that it's becoming more accepted and more normalized, even when it's not the extremely harmful, abusive narcissism. And I think using the word narcissism is a huge buzzword, TikTok word. Everyone's kind of sometimes overusing it, but a lot of more people know what it is. Yeah. So I think a lot more people also have information to go, oh my God, this person's harmful. Like, people didn't really understand that, like, the practices of their family, the way that their parents treated them weren't not normal. Because I can't count the number of times I've heard, like, the stereotype of, like, the toxic boy mom who, like, pushes the daughter-in-law out and, like, makes her feel bad. And it's, hey, now people have the words and the narrative to say, like, oh wait, that's not okay. Yeah. Now we're going to go no contact. I think people have a lot more education and understanding of healthy versus unhealthy. So they're making different decisions now. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's such a great point in the fact that, like, anybody can make that decision to go no contact, right? And it's never our place to say yes or no, do this or don't do that. I think there's wiggle room and grace to give to people to, again, if you want to keep that person in your life, to figure out it doesn't have to be like black or white. No relationship is completely black and white. There's always going to be that gray area. You just have to be curious about, like, where that gray area lies for you and, like, how you want to maintain that person in your life.
All right. Question number 3, how to manage and maintain other relationships when there is no contact with the main point of contact. So this question is referring to, if I go no contact with my parents, how do I maintain relationships with grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, extended family in that relationship, or no contact with a mother-in-law, but extended family on the other side, that kind of stuff. I think the important thing with this is it's also going to be a two-way street. So yes, you can maintain the relationship with the people around that person if they're also willing. Because I've seen a lot of cases where if one central kind of matriarch, patriarch person of that family system is the person that's unhealthy, that person then also has a lot of control around their position. So even if, say, a daughter-in-law chooses to go no contact with a mother-in-law, that person then may exclude you from holidays. They may scare people into not participating in your days and holidays and celebrations and things like that. So as long as you can kind of negotiate with the people around that potentially unhealthy or controlling person, you can absolutely do that by just kind of reaching out to that person and saying, like, hey, I've decided to go no contact with X, but I would really love to maintain a relationship with you, Y, and can we get together? And kind of going above and beyond to not make it just the holidays, right? If it's people you only see on Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, well, that main person you've got no contact with is probably going to be present, and it's going to be potentially difficult to celebrate those holidays in the ways that you used to. But it might be, hey, can we go for coffee? Or hey, can we set up a play date? Or finding alternate times of connection, or scheduling phone calls, FaceTimes, maintaining Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, things like that. How am I going to find tailored forms of quality time and communication with that person outside of the person I've gone no contact with? Because I've definitely seen cases where people kind of say, like, I don't want to be a part of this. Keep me out of this. I already said I'd go to this. I can't go to yours. So it's definitely not easy. And I think that's an important part to remember if and when you decide to go no contact, that there is typically a domino effect of, it's not just this one thing I'm choosing to do. It's going to affect all of these other relationships. And I'm going to receive potentially messages and pressure from the people around. So if you go no contact with a sibling, your parents might say, like, every time you spend time with that parent, they might be pushing you to say, like, it's your sister, you got to forgive, you've got to forgive. So that domino effect of, now I can't really spend time with my parents without them bringing it up because they're being pushy and they disagree with it. Where other times it's that parent might say, that's your sister, that's your relationship, I respect that, I still want a relationship with you, I'm happy to put that boundary. So it really depends kind of the values that your family system or that relationship system kind of comes with.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point about how the periphery relationships can be impacted by that like initial going no contact, right? Especially like you said, if it's the patriarch of the family who is the one that you're going no contact with, and if they're hosting these family events or like organizing the family events, then yeah, it's going to greatly impact, and you don't want to create competition. And I think that that's going to be something to be mindful of. If you do choose to go no contact, like you host Christmas and they host Christmas, and then you're trying to, you know, buy the attention of relatives, or they're trying, like, it just gets so messy. And I think you got to be really mindful going into this. I think you kind of alluded to it, and my big idea, my huge idea when it comes to how to manage those relationships is being so clear with what your expectations are with that periphery family member, right? So if you say, I really want to maintain a relationship with you, I really want to have you in my life, but I really don't want to talk about this person, right? You don't want your relationship now with cousin, sibling, aunt, uncle, whoever it is, to be all around like, you sure you can't fix things? You sure you can't get, talk again? Because then that's just going to be so draining for you. So being so clear about like, I'm choosing to maintain my relationship with you. My relationship with you is important. I'm asking you to respect that conversation is not a conversation I want to be having with you. That's between me and that person. I don't want to create conflict, whatever that looks like, so that you can maintain a healthy relationship. Gossiping and like talking behind people's back, I could use a different word for that. It's never going to get anybody anywhere, right? It's not going to maintain any kind of healthy communication for people. And the last thing you want is to be known as that person who's just like spewing hate. There's no winning there.
Yeah, and I think to add to that, not triangulating anyone, because then you might actually cost yourself further relationships. If you're the person who's gone no contact with, we'll stick to the matriarch, patriarch member, and then you spend your quality time with other people trying to convince that person to see the problem. Because if you've gone no contact, we know there's a problem. People don't go no contact lightly. People think kids throw it around easy. I've heard it on TikTok. I didn't do anything. I've never seen a decision made lightly. So if you are going to have relationships with other people, keep that stuff separate. If they ask you a couple questions and you're comfortable answering, explaining your position, that's fine. But you definitely don't want to become the person who's trying to convince everyone else to go no contact with that person. It has to be a personal decision. If that person is choosing to maintain a relationship with that person, make compromise with that person, accept that person for who they are, you really got to accept that position, because it's also not fair to the other person to constantly be told, well, like, this is unhealthy, that's unhealthy, can't you see it, watch this video, listen to this book, read this podcast, whatever. I just totally said read podcasts and listen to a book. But we can kind of get overwhelmed with trying to get people to see what we see. Yeah. And you got to remember that no contact is your journey, your path. And outside of the immediate people in your home that you are in some kind of obligation to protect, like your spouse, you got to protect your spouse, you got to protect your kids. Outside of your house, you are not responsible for the relationships that people hold. So reminding yourself that this is my choice, and I'm going to spend time with my brother and we're going to take the kids skating, or I'm going to spend time with my sister and we're going to go get coffee, but leave that person off the table, because that person might have a very different relationship, different experience, different needs, different sport, different village, and they might not be in the position to give up that relationship right now. And then the last question is how to manage feelings of abandonment and sadness when you decide to go no contact. Oh, that one breaks my heart. First of all, I always tell people we're not trying to get rid of these feelings, especially when it comes to unhealthy relationship, unhealthy family, unhealthy attachment. Those relationships are not going to go away. Even when you go no contact, I have yet to meet someone, and parents and in-laws are probably the most common that I see. I've seen siblings, etc. But parents are kind of the go-to no contact positions I've worked with. And I have never met a woman who has no contact with her mother that is not devastated. Yeah. She is not happy. She is not excited. She's not doing this in glee. Mm-hmm. She is devastated. And there are so many battle wounds and scars to get to that decision of learning to take care of yourself. So going to therapy, finding your chosen family, finding things that make you happy. It's not going to resolve the trauma. It's still going to be sad and heartbreak and grief that you didn't get the parent that you needed. That's not going to go away. But there are ways of making it a little bit lighter so it doesn't have such a chokehold on you, and being able to talk to safe people that understand and validate your position and just kind of hold space for how sad that is and how upsetting it is can be really powerful.
I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there with it is devastating, and it is really, really sad to sit with all of those emotions that come with finally getting to the point, because like you said, it's never just, oh, I don't like what this person did this one time, I'm just never going to talk to them again. It's usually a long relationship history of like disappointment or sadness or trauma or whatever it is that's kind of led you to this decision to go no contact. And I feel like there's always a piece of people who like are hoping that setting these boundaries or taking that big step back is going to be the wake up moment for whoever that person is. Let's stick with the parent, to be like, wow, my child isn't reaching out to me, or my child doesn't want to talk to me. What have I done? But the emotional maturity to do that, to have that reflection, is so rare that it's not to do with you as an individual. It's so much more to do with them and where they are at in their own understanding of themselves, their emotions, and their relationships. And I think that that's a big piece that people need to understand is you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. You can walk away from a family member and it's not going to make them snap into reality and reach out. And it's so sad when that happens, recognizing that you made this decision for your well-being, for the long term of like your own emotional and mental health and sometimes physical health. Going no contact with this person or like significantly reducing contact with this person is what you needed to do to protect yourself and in turn protect the people around you. So I think keeping that in perspective is a nice way to be able to like stay grounded in that decision and like kind of take care of yourself. But like Corrie said, making sure you have your village around you, making sure you have that support, go to therapy, talk to your friends, talk to your people. Again, we don't want to like triangulate or get other family members involved in it, but make sure you have your support network around you because it's not an easy choice. And like speaking from experience, I have family members who have gone non-contact with people that I am still in contact with. And it is tough to watch them go through the mental process of it, but you gotta kind of stay on the outside of it and let them do their thing. And for people who are kind of navigating that themselves, you gotta, just have the people around you, have the support around you. There's nothing in this life that people are supposed to do alone.
Yeah, and I think speaking of like the drinking the horse to the water and drinking, I think it's important to remember that when you decide to go no contact, typically more often than not, there are exceptions to every rule, but the things that people do are not personal. Mm-hmm. So I find one of the biggest ways people can cope with going no contact is making sure that you know the things that person is doing, especially in a parent position, they have been dealing with that stuff longer than you have been alive. Yeah. If your parent is a narcissist, if your parent is unhealthy, if your parent is codependent, emotionally immature, whatever that thing is, they have been like that longer than you've been alive. This is not about you. No. It is being projected on you. It is being put on you. It is being turned towards you, but it is not your fault. Mm-hmm. Anytime we turn it as to, this is my fault, I wasn't enough, if only it had been better, if only it had been more, those feelings of abandonment and sadness and the emotions that go with no contact are going to be so much heavier because we're making it our responsibility that we did this to the relationship. It's our fault that the relationship is like this. I broke it. I'm going to need to fix it one day. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. This was here before you were born, and it'll be here well after you've gone no contact. That person has shown you that they are either potentially not ready to change, not capable of change, and not available to change. So I think remembering that it is not your responsibility. This is not personal. Yeah. And I think remembering, don't make this into a grudge. Mm-hmm. If you're going to go no contact, do your very best. Like, I understand that you're angry at that person, you're upset with that person hurt you in ways that a lot of people won't be able to imagine family members or people close to people can. But if you turn it into a grudge, that person's not losing sleep over it. Yeah. Like, they say a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And that's exactly what it is. I've seen people go no contact and hold so much anger. And like, if I stop being angry, I let them off the hook, I promise you, they're not on the hook anyways. There's a reason you've got no contact. That person is not losing an ounce of sleep over this decision. They don't see that they're the problem. They will never potentially understand that they're the problem. Approach no contact of a place of giving yourself self-compassion, seeking compassion, giving yourself grace, and you will cope with it so much better. If it comes from, I'm responsible and I hate them, this is a grudge, you are going to hold on to all of that anger, that tension, and that stress, and it is going to make this very difficult decision even harder.
Definitely couldn't agree more. It's more draining for you in the long run to hold on to all of that anger. You got to release it, hold it, experience it, and then let it go, right? All emotions come and go. They never stick with us forever. They will come back maybe smaller, maybe more intense at different times, but emotions come and go, right? They're not permanent. I think that's it for this one.
Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed today's show. To check out the show notes, visit healthcounseling.ca. If you have any questions you'd like us to address on our next episode, please reach out to us on Instagram at Health Counseling and Therapy or via the contact page on our website. We'd love to hear about the important questions you have about your life and look forward to chatting with you. If you're looking for a therapist, feel free to visit healthcounseling.ca to check out our therapist profiles. The directory Psychology Today is also a great resource for finding a therapist. Thank you again for listening, and until next time, take care.